Hello guys, and welcome back to the second game of the AOA Revolution Knockout Tournament. Now, this time around I'm going to be speaking over, unfortunately we had several problems when recording this round, ranging from audio not being recorded obviously, to server disconnects. The server kicked us off at one stage, my internet decided to die at one stage, and so all in all it was a very mixed bag. We managed to get the games in, however they were fairly enjoyable, and here we are. So this time around we have NeoWave up against WarriorWounds. Now, interestingly enough, WarriorWounds decided to go as random, so he feels obviously fairly confident in his ability to play both races, if you would. So he ended up getting US, so we've got a Chimera up against US. This map, as you can see, has aluminium mainly in the center, with the oil spread around, slightly less oil seeded on this map than we would usually see, or than we saw in the first round. That tends to benefit the Chimera player, although after recent changes aluminium is used more in the build order for US. Now you see the early Marines coming out for WarriorWounds. Now these are just Marines to take his bank. He doesn't use these at all for any kind of rush, which is fairly common. You almost always want to get your Marines out to go and take your first bank, just to kind of get that gold in for you. They both go for fairly slow economic builds. You can see they're both getting out their refineries and power. You'll see NeoWave also goes for his infantry units just to go and take his bank up front, and he takes it. As you can see, very slow build from both sides, so no attempt at a rush from either of them. You can see another refinery going down there. More Marines coming out. Obviously he will attempt to take the other banks on the map. You can see there's the bank on the both right and left hand side. I was just kind of looking around at the stage to see if either of them had gone for a kind of light vehicle bay or something like that, spear vehicle bay, to see if either of them attempted to get units out fast, but no, they both went for the slower build. As for why the sound wasn't recorded, I've explained it in a couple of videos, but basically I use an audio splitter to split my audio in and out for my desktop, which is broken. However, when I use my laptop I can just plug my headphones straight in and it splits it for me. So I have to record my own voice, have to open TeamSpeak on my desktop so that I can listen to the conversation on my desktop while using my laptop to commentate. And stupidly enough of me, I completely forgot to open TeamSpeak on my desktop, so all I recorded was the game, and we sat there chatting, and only afterwards did I realize that I hadn't got the audio. So you can see, still just going for the economic builds, both of them, both just getting more refineries up. You can see that second oil refinery up front of his base there for Neo. It's quite nice to see the longer economic builds. You can see the Marines now coming out to take that bank on the right hand side for WarriorWounds. You can see that wreckage in the base there. I unfortunately missed it, but obviously Neo ran his scouting vehicle into WarriorWounds' base, but obviously, as you can see by the wreckage, it died fairly quickly. A little bit of damage there on the barracks, but I don't think any units were lost, so no economic damage at all. And it's fairly good idea once you've got your minerals scouted to get your scouting vehicle out there and just do some economic damage if you can, because they tend to kill Marines and stuff fairly well, so they are quite efficient for that. Now I was just checking to see if either bank had been scouted for warrior wounds. You can see he took the right hand base, but he hadn't at this stage made any attempt for the left hand base. Neo had not made an attempt for either of the side banks yet. He had scouted out the left hand side, but he had not pushed for it at all. So now you see the spear vehicle bay coming up very late, although not late if you're going for a longer build. It would just be late if you were going for any kind of rush. And straight away, interestingly enough, he went for the upgrade that allows you to put units into your Puma, which can be nice if you want to move units around in something that is slightly more sturdy in the form of a Puma. And then he starts bringing out SAS, which are very strong units, fairly expensive, fairly gold intensive. You see a 2-striker push now from WarriorWounds. Now 2-striker is not going to do much for you, but they will get you a bit of a scout. They will do damage to any unguarded units or anything like this. But you can see that Neo has got a turret up already, as well as the fact that the units, the Chimera mining units, if you like, they are weaponized. So they unlike America, they come standard with weapons, so they do a little bit of damage to those strikers, and so those strikers aren't going to live long. You see one go down almost straight away into the base. So far, nothing killed by warrior wounds on that push, so not the most efficient of pushes at all. You do see Marines coming out now with an ICV there, so he could attempt a Marine push, although as we've seen, Neo's base has already got a turret up and already guarded, and he would have seen that too and probably would decide against any kind of infantry rush. So Neo didn't take any losses on that push. As you can see, very badly damaged unit, but nothing lost. Just kind of looking around, waiting to see if he expands anymore. Expansion from both of them was very slow. You see Neo start to push out quite a few Pumas. Now he doesn't rush them by any means. He only goes for one spear vehicle bay, and he just pushes them out one by one. And you'll see throughout the game he starts to build up that Puma force without rushing it, without putting too much effort or resource into it, which is quite good. Now you can see that ICV full of infantry is coming around to try and take that bank on the left hand side from WarriorWounds. And WarriorWounds, as I was pointing out there, managed to get his single prisoner of war out of the base and running across the map, which is quite good. Means that Neo couldn't get any scout on his base. So he has the striker and the ICV pushing for that bank. Quite an interesting little push, because once you come up with the vehicles, the infantry inside the bank will just shoot the vehicles, since they were the first target, leaving your Marines free to run into the base and into the bank and take it, which he does there, and there he captures that left hand side bank. So WarriorWounds now owns both the left and right hand side banks, as well as his starting bank in front of his base. Now you see him getting the air control up, which is quite interesting. As well as the air control, he already had a heavy vehicle bay, so he went for a very split build with the light vehicle bay, heavy vehicle bay, and the air control. I was looking around here, not noticing what Neo was doing, because he wasn't building anything in space, but you'll notice just now that he went for a kind of proxy build where he built a command center out to the left hand side and started to build that, which was quite clever, meaning it didn't get scouted at all. WarriorWounds didn't get the scout on him until quite late. So you can see WarriorWounds pumping out Abrahams now from that heavy vehicle bay. That early economic push, having grabbed up a whole bunch of mineral fields, means that he can fund all these buildings. That logistics center was quite late. He had already gone to DEFCON 2 by then and had put out the heavy vehicle bay and whatnot. So a bit late on that logistics center, in my opinion. He should have brought that out first. So here's the little proxy player bringing out 2 helipads. Now, they aren't used enough, in my opinion, because helicopters are in fact very strong against strikers. You've already seen 2 strikers out from WarriorWounds, so you can think that Neo would be assuming to see a lot more strikers. So bringing helicopters out is a very clever play, because helicopters are strong against strikers. Strikers do have the ability to shoot down air targets, but not the strongest, and they, in numbers, would definitely lose to helicopters. As you just noticed there for a brief second, that slight Puma force rolling around, as I said, that builds up very slowly. You can see here that those helicopter pads were not scouted at all by WarriorWounds. I was just checking that to confirm. But you'll see now on the left hand side a slight Abrahams push, and those Abrahams will eventually get that scout. As well as that, what WarriorWounds had done as well is he had already got, you can see there, Raptors out, those jets, which are good against buildings and infantry. So that Raptor managed to scout the single helipad, but that's all. And now he gets the full scout on it, although his 2 Abrahams go down very quickly, with that Raptor having to put in a few shots and then retreat. As again mentioned, you can see that Puma force slowly starting to build up. He definitely didn't rush that. He focused more on the helicopters, but that single spear vehicle bay was pumping out Puma after Puma, with him not losing any of them. So he does build up that Puma force quite well. Interestingly enough, he went for that Puma upgrade, but then didn't seem to use it. Now, here's when the first of our problems started. Both my laptop and desktop decided to both start downloading Windows 10 at the exact same time, and so for a brief second my internet kind of bugged out, but we do return to the game quite quickly. So yeah, there I was downloading Windows 10. Unbeknownst to me, I only figured out after the game and had to change it, or had to stop the download. So you can see the resources taken quite well around the map. I was just checking out that rare earth to see if he had made any attempt for that rare earth, considering he had that air control up, so he could have gone for B-2 bombers, but he never. You can see the Raptor getting a little bit of harass on that army and the buildings there, although not doing much damage at all. At this stage he had 2 Raptors. One was cloaked and the other was just doing some harass, but not doing much. You can see a long build order for helicopters there out of NeoWave. There's that little Puma force rolling around. He controlled it very well. He microed it very well, moving from side to side on the map, making sure that no pushes could come through. You can see in comparison those Abrahams were building very slowly from WarriorWounds, whereas Neo already had a decent Puma army as well as his helicopters coming out. He had gone for the Tusk 1 upgrade at this stage. Another little ICV push there in an attempt to take back the bank. You'll notice that he lost banks on both sides. That's mainly down to the power of SAS, who fight other infantry very well. You can see that the SAS took that bank. But you'll see now that that ICV push is just going to run straight face forward into a bunch of Pumas, and that's going to be the end of that. Now I was trying to look around here to see if WarriorWounds had a decent force up, but for some reason his force had built very slowly. I don't know if he had not focused enough on his build order, or if he had just not noticed that he wasn't getting much out, but he had a very small little Abrams force there with a couple of anti-air units, but not enough for what he was going to run into. You can see that little side base there was completely unaffected, and the main base here guarded by that single turret and Pumas. So here you've got the little force of Abrahams coming to try and deal with these helicopters now, which are getting harassed on the base, as well as a Raptor, and they were just harassing that refinery. Although Abrahams, as you can see, do nothing against those helicopters, so he's reliant completely on his single little blazer trying to shoot down these helicopters. But one thing you'll notice about this game is the shots fired do have trajectory, so you can miss. You can out micro shots fired. So what he was doing there is, as WarriorWounds would fire, he would move his helicopters, and generally the blazer would miss. The same goes for artillery. Artillery can miss. So if you move while the shot is in the air, you can outmaneuver it, which I quite like. It's quite realistic. Now you can see here NeoWave has very good map control, having spread out quite well, taken all the banks on both hand side as well as his own. He's got his little proxy base set up there on the left hand side with turrets now, and his map control was excellent. Now you can see the little push here of 4 Abrahams and a blazer. Unfortunately though, unnoticed, the helicopters go around that to go and harass the base some more, and that's pretty much his only force. He did have 2 Hercules, so if he had run into a ground force with that, those Tusk 1 Abrahams with 2 Hercules would have been quite strong. They would have been very hard to kill. Unfortunately though, he takes them to the side there to go and try and kill that base, and while he does that, the helicopters come around and start harassing his own base. You can see there he was attempting to set up some rare earth mining, his rare earth refinery. Unfortunately it goes down before it can start working to those helicopters. And there you go, you see the Pumas pushing up into the base. That Puma force that I pointed out earlier that built up slowly over time. Not even his main focus was those helicopters, but that Puma force comes in, hits the base, and WarriorWounds' army of Abrahams and Hercules are too far out to do anything about it, and the power goes down to his base. Too much economic damage done, and there's the GG. So NeoWave picked up the first victory. You can see WarriorWounds did manage to get more resources, but his use of resources was not that great. Going for slower builds and spreading out his build order, having an air control, having a heavy vehicle bay, light vehicle bay. He didn't have enough focus on a single army, and so he kind of, that, as I said before, that Abraham's army with those Hercules would have been very strong against a ground force, because Tusk 1 Abrahams are already hard to kill, and then alongside that with 2 Hercules would have been quite painful if he had run into a ground force. So now we have our second game almost ready to go. Now, unfortunately, we did have a previous second game, and that's where the server problems had come in. And first of all, I had disconnected, but the game carried on. I had disconnected for the same reason. My Windows 10 decided to start upgrading again, or downloading again. And so I could only listen to what was happening. And then halfway through that, the game servers died and everyone was kicked out. So we had to go ahead and start again. It's unfortunate. WarriorWounds looked like he was going to pick that one up. It was hard to say. It wasn't far enough in that we could give it to him, but it did look like he was going to pick it up. So unlucky to him, so he had to go into this still one game down. Just waiting for everyone to get ready, pick their sides and whatnot. You can see that WarriorWounds did go random again. So he was sitting on Chimera and then decided to switch from Chimera to random again, which, as I say, is very brave from him. It means he does feel confident with both the teams available. So here we go, we see them starting, and they ended up both being US. Both being US, you can see that WarriorWounds goes for barracks first, and then his refineries. And then you can see the barracks coming out there. Now that's generally what you want to do if you want to go for a rush. So if you're planning on a rush build, then you definitely want to go for that early barracks before refineries. So I was just trying to see here what he was doing, if he was planning on doing that rush. Now you'll see something very interesting out of him here. He goes for that field hospital. Now you might be wondering, what on earth are you going to do with an early field hospital? The one unit they do have is, I forget its name, unfortunately, sorry about that, is a helicopter which can carry infantry units. And we haven't tested it exactly, we haven't timed it, but we believe that going for a helicopter alongside your Marines will get you a faster rush than if you go for an ICV or a Humvee, as well as having the benefit of that helicopter being an air unit that is harder to kill. So you can see him bringing out his Marines. He does go for the base first, so he built for a rush, but then was quite slow about it. So he built his Marines, but then went to take his bank first, and then he had to wait on that field hospital. You can see here the light vehicle bay out of Neowave. So that light vehicle bay comes out, and you can see that he will start getting Marines out as well. And we quickly noticed that they were both going for Marine rushes. So there the Marines come out for WarriorWounds, and there comes out the helicopter as well. His helicopter does start coming out before NeoWave manages to get his ICV out. There's a little bit of harass from WarriorWounds, who comes into NeoWave's base with his scouting vehicle. Unfortunately, NeoWave had built Javelin units, and those Javelin units very quickly ended that. You see that ICV out there. So he has the helicopter out, and it immediately goes down to pick up those Marines. The one downside, obviously, you have to this helicopter is it does take a little bit of time to land to pick up units and then take off again, so it is slightly slower in picking up and dropping off.
So you see there, he's already got 2 Humvees and an ICV, which is a very strong early push, and he goes directly through the center there. So that's NeoWave's pushing up there with his ICV and 2 Humvees full of units. Now you'll see WarriorWounds leaves his base with that helicopter. The helicopter is of course faster than the ICV and Humvees. Now we were all getting excited on TeamSpeak by this, because we noticed obviously that they were both going for the rush, and we would probably end up with a base trade. Unfortunately, WarriorWounds decided to go a long way around in order to not get scouted, and I'm not sure if that was the best idea. It definitely helped him not get scouted, but it did cost him a lot of time. Enough time, unfortunately, for NeoWaves to continue building the infantry inside his base. So you see here the push from NeoWave coming up with his Humvees coming into the base. So there's the helicopter coming into NeoWave's base with the Marines, and it'll drop them off fairly quickly. And you'll notice that right now there's no one there to defend, but it did take him a long time to get around, and you can already see that the forces had pushed into WarriorWounds' base by now. So we did end up getting the base trade. You see there WarriorWounds picked up the base, and NeoWave has picked up that base there. So it was a direct base trade. So they both ended up fighting wars inside each other's base, trying to get rid of the defenses. Unfortunately, WarriorWounds had sent in less units than NeoWaves had, meaning that he had less of an ability to hold the base once he had taken it. Now the base has swapped hands a couple of times. NeoWaves did for a second manage to get his base back, as did WarriorWounds. They both managed to get their bases back. NeoWave manages to get his base back and then hold it, whereas WarriorWounds here, you see, loses his base for a second time and has no ability to take it back. And there you see the GG. So very interesting rush out of both of them, and they both went for the base trade. We felt that if he had gone directly across the map with that helicopter, WarriorWounds would have won that, just because the helicopter is faster. But unfortunately he chose to go around, and thus taking just too long, to the point where defenses were managed to get up. So that was the second game. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry that we had the problems. I'm sorry that we didn't manage to get the audio correct, but we will definitely endeavor to get it working properly next time. I hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you for the next game. Goodbye.